Welcome, welcome. We have another fantastic episode of Women Winning Their Way. And I'm so excited for my new friend, Kimberly Gilroy, to join us. So, Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Claire. I'm so excited to be here and have a conversation with you.
I know, me too. We met a few weeks ago, and I was really excited to be able to bring you on and have you share your message. Before we go into learning more about you, just briefly describe, what is it that you do?
Yeah, I am actually a co-founder of Creative Agency, and we focus on supporting women-centered causes and environmental nonprofits through design. So it's branding, strategy, websites, and we help make an impact and use our tool of design to create some change.
I love that. It's all about making change and impact. So that's
Yes.
fantastic. So let me start off by asking, the title of the show is Women Winning Their Way. And I would love to get your take. What does that mean to you?
Yes, I really like that question. I love the title too, because I feel like it's so relevant, especially today. But I would say it's finding, for me personally, it'd be finding my true self and being able to align my day to day with that. So my decisions, my actions, and being able to own who I am in everything that I do. And I think in that case, you can't really lose if you're just
Mhm.
being authentic.
I love that. Fantastic. So tell me, was there a time where maybe you lost sight of yourself and had to bring it back and get back into alignment?
Yes. Probably more
Short
often
answer,
than I want to
yes.
admit. Yes. I think it's just a natural thing. For me, I'm actually originally from New York, live in California now, but my journey from growing up there, going to school and going into design was not exactly the path I always saw myself on. I went to school thinking I was going to be an accountant, being like, okay, I like math, I like numbers. And I just had to like hone in and listen to my gut and understanding what classes I wanted to take and what I was interested in. And that's where I kind of started this whole journey of design. And then it was recognizing when to leave a job. And that's when I moved cross country and coming out to California, looking for jobs, looking for new opportunities. I never sought to be a business owner. It's not something that like I ever thought I would do, but yeah, through those trials and those failures and those experiences, this path is just kind of unfolded. And when I look back now, I'm like, oh, it's probably the most authentic path I can be on too.
Right.
Because yeah, society says, oh, you go after school, you get a job, you need healthcare, you need X, Y, and Z, and you follow these steps. And my path is probably not any of that.
Mhm.
That would we might call traditional,
Right.
but to me, it's like I can't actually imagine myself being on any other journey than this one.
Oh,
So, yeah, I think there's
so
definitely
great.
times where it's like, oh my gosh, this doesn't feel right, and it's scary, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think I can honestly own it now, and that's where it feels comfortable.
I love it. So there's so much that I want to unpack in this. Let's go back to when you were in school and talking about, many times we do have this crafted vision, and many times it comes from, again, where we were raised or whatever. We have this idea, again, like you did, of being an accountant. I like math. It's probably a stable income. I'll make some good money. And then realizing that wasn't your path. I think we all have moments where we have those questions coming in, and it can cause a lot of stress for you. When, if you were talking to a woman who was sort of questioning, do I pivot or do I not? What are some of the things that you went through? Was there guilt? Was there fear? Was there like worry of, am I making a huge mistake? How did you reconcile the path of letting go of the dream that you had had for so long to opening yourself up to go forward into this new path?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually think at some point I realized accountant wasn't my dream. When I had to create my schedule for the first semester, second semester of my freshman year, I just wanted to take a photography class. Like that's the only thing I knew I wanted to take. And then with that came like, oh, in order to do photography, you have to take this class first. And it just I think every time I was making a schedule and applying for classes, I just felt myself being drawn towards this passion of creating and art. And back then, I had no awareness that art could be a career.
Mhm.
It just seems like it was something that was a passion, a hobby, and something I would just enjoy to get myself through. school,
Right.
and while I'm taking other classes, being like, all right, they're going to balance each other out. But I was fortunate enough to have a great advisor who recommended, I ended up double majoring. So it was communications, which was a PR journalism focus,
Hmm.
and then design as well. But my art advisor was like, no, double major, you'll come out of school with a portfolio. And at least you'll have that as a tool once you're going to apply for jobs. And I can promise you that portfolio is what got me every job I landed since then. And it was kind of like, hey, I had this, yeah, this portfolio that I was able to show everyone, be like, hey, this is who I am. And it was supporting rather than just, the resume and cover letter. But I think, yeah, there's definitely moments. I remember having to tell my parents I was going to be an art student rather than
Hmm.
an accountant. And there's definitely a lot of uncertainty along the way. But I think there's that gut instinct that just really comes through at those pivotal times to tell you, no, no, this is the path.
So
And
what
this
were
is
some of the
what,
things that you did to demonstrate? For you it was your parents, but for others that are watching the show, it could be a significant other, it could be friends, it still could be parents. How what were some of the things that you highlighted to get them on board with your dream? Because, you're right. You go and you're like, "Oh, I want to do this instead of that." And, not everybody understands it, and many times people try to talk us out of it. And unfortunately, many times we listen. So, what were some of the things that you did, and what are some suggestions for if somebody does want to change? What are the best ways to get other people on board?
well, I can admit, I still don't think my parents know what I do today. They don't, so we had to let that go. But yeah, I think it's really understanding, it's like, who are you actually trying to please, right? Like, is it your significant other? Is it your friends? Or do these people really, do their opinions really matter when you're making these life decisions for yourself? And it's a lot of self-awareness for sure. But in recognizing that each decision and action you're taking, that is it for you personally or is it for someone else? And I think that's when you really can get on that path that you're looking to get on, when you realize, like, hey, this is for me. Like, this is my decision. This is what I have to wake up to every day and decide to do. And I think that's really where it comes down to making those decisions.
Really powerful. And I really hope people heard what you said. You have to live for you. And I know it's easier said than done, especially the older you get and when you start to have more and more responsibilities, families, mortgages, all of those. At the end of the day, though, there has to be something that is in your life for you. Because if
Yes.
you're only going through the motions, that's what leads to burnout and inauthenticness, and just again, the resentment that builds up. So I think you
Yes.
do have to sometimes know and fight for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think when it comes down to it, it's just that it's you. This is your life, and you have to make it. You're in control to make it what you want it
Yeah.
to be.
So I want to ask you, because you brought up this concept, which I agree with 100%. You working for yourself, being an entrepreneur, you actually feel like there's more job security in that. And I always find it interesting. And I agree. For me, I always look at it as I still have a job. When I had the quote unquote corporate job, I showed up, I had a job description, I did my job, I got paid. Well, I still have to do those things as an entrepreneur. I just have a little bit more flexibility of how I do that. So, how are you finding structure in the freedom so that you actually can build this business, have sustainability, and make it all work for you?
Yeah, well, I will admit that sometimes it seems more glamorous than it is.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people have this idea that with the freedom that comes with it, it's almost a lot less work, but you have to dedicate yourself in order to go on this path. Um, so I just think it became, luckily I have a business partner, so that was been a key to our success, to
Mhm.
be able to bounce ideas off of and create a system together. And with that comes accountability, which is nice. And then we've been able to learn, like, what works, when are we creative, when do we work best, and build our, I would say, office hours to
Yeah.
that. And then that's what gives us the opportunity to then be more flexible. But
Yeah.
at the same time, also realizing, like, what fuels you. So it might just be like, hey, you know what, today I really need to go for a hike, but I'll be back in the office later. And having that balance too, knowing you still have these responsibilities, you still have to show up and you still have to, meet your clients' needs. get
Yeah.
those bills paid and whatnot. But that nice balance to be like, all right, I need to go meditate or something.
Yeah.
Kind of just helps create that structure. But again, it kind of goes back to listening to yourself. Like, hey, what does my energy have for today? Like, I still have to meet this list of responsibilities and show up for these people, but what does my body need? What does my mind need? And using that too.
Right. I want to talk a little bit about business partners because I love the idea that you have a business partner and you get that camaraderie, you get the accountability, you get the brainstorming. It's not always easy to find that right partner. And a lot of the people that are watching this are entrepreneurs. So, what would be some, I guess, tips that you would give somebody if they are looking at bringing in a business partner? How do you find the right one? How do you differentiate and sort of get in alignment and then also divide and conquer so you're not stepping on each other?
Yes, I am so fortunate. Reva Green is my business partner. I'm just so fortunate that she's mine. She is just a great human. But we met each other freelancing for another agency. So we met each other in a work setting, not being friends, just being coworkers. And from there is when our conversation started, being like, hey, like you've got freelance clients, I've got freelance clients. What if we step aside and do this ourselves? So that was great that we came in not really knowing each other outside of a work environment. So I think that was pivotal. And at the beginning, we heard a lot of people say, don't work with your friends, don't do this. You're like, okay. We're like, well, we're not really friends yet. We are definitely now. But at the beginning, I think that kind of helps. And then when we came down to dividing tasks, we would just meet constantly. And one of the best exercises we did was we took index cards and we wrote every responsibility that was going to be needed for this to work. It went from invoicing to emailing to marketing, all the tasks, and then just divvied them up. And it's like, okay, I want this. Do you want this? And I was like, I'm not doing invoicing. So that was one of the things. I was like, if we're going to make this work, you have to do accounting. And from day one, she's been doing that, which has been great.
So funny,
But
how that was going to be your major. And you're like, yeah, I'm not
yes,
touching it now.
I'm like, I'm not doing numbers. I was like, I'm not hunting people down for money. So we were able to, from the beginning, do that. It's pivoted since, but from then, we meet every Monday afternoon and have check ins. And it's like this honest hour for the two of us. So when things are going bad or things are going really good, we're either celebrating or it's like, hey, I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling burnt out. Can we adjust how things are working right now? Or this client's kind of making me stressed. Like, what can you do? And getting those inputs there. But I think the constant communication and those weekly meetings has really aided in our success to be doing this for so long.
Yeah. And I really love how you call it an honest hour.
Yes.
We've got to do that. So that's a powerful way to look at it. When we met, one of the things that really drew me to you is your passion for helping not only women run businesses, but especially in the area of nonprofit. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called You Are My Light. And I think that there is so much about giving back and being part of something bigger than you. What drew you and your partner to create a company all around that?
Yeah. So actually, this kind of soul searching came about during COVID. Um, Going into COVID, our clients were mostly events and travel restaurants, so everything that shut down. So we had to do a little bit of a deep dive into like, okay, who do we really want to work with? What do we really want to do? And from that, we had realized that we were spending time in the outdoors, we were camping, we were hiking, just staying busy, and got involved with 1% for the planet. So we started to focus a lot on environmental organizations. And then with aligning ourselves there, it's like, okay, like our passion's even deeper than the environment, and it is women's health. And it is women centered, focused organizations, nonprofits who are trying to create that change and that impact that we talked about earlier. And I think being women ourselves, Reva just had a baby in February, and I've been on my own fertility journey. So I think we've just been in it. And with everything that's been happening over the last couple of years and where we're at now, we've just been motivated to get behind it and support it. And like someone's got to step up and create the change. And if we can do that through our design work and our branding and who we work with, then it's like, look, we're all in for it. That's
That's
where we want to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to talk with you about is when I do a lot of my training, one of the concepts that comes up is this idea that showing is better than telling. And when you talked about how when you did the move from New York to California, you had your portfolio to show them rather than just tell them you're doing. Now, being in the realm of art, that's easy. I think writers can do it by showing what they've written.
Mhm.
But what can other people do? Like, how important was it for you to have something to show them other than just a resume and a cover letter? And maybe what are some other things we could do to show proof of our value, as we might be out there trying to sell our companies, to sell our name, to sell our, service that we have.
As much as I love the portfolio, I'm also it became also a crutch for me too. I don't love sales, I'll admit it. So it became a crutch in selling myself. It is a great asset for us in business for sure, and getting new clients and showing our work. But I also think your personality and who you are as a human, and through conversation alone, you can show someone your work ethic, like
Mm.
your passion behind what you're doing, why you want to do something, and what's driving you. So I think just you as a human can show it in other ways that might not be visual for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. When they can see your passion for what you do, that almost tells the story more than anything else. And connecting with you. And I know a lot of people have said that too. And I'll just start talking and they're like, oh my gosh, I can see how passionate. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I am. You
Yeah.
don't sometimes know it. And so I think that goes back to what you initially started the conversation off with, knowing who you are and being authentically you. So I think that's wonderful. Kimberly, you just are bringing so much, and I really love your messages. You have so much bravery. I give you a lot of, kudos for one, being brave enough to listen to yourself, being
Thank
brave
you.
enough to leave and venture out into the unknown, and brave enough to go into an area that is all about helping others and impacting lives. So much that you and your business partner are doing. And I know that you're nowhere near to even being done. So I would love to hear it. What's next for Kimberly?
Thank you. We're actually just launched a creative grant for the women's health space. So we're inviting people to apply to work with us. And in return, it's a 3-month opportunity for creative needs. So branding strategy and then ongoing support with any visuals. And we're opening it up to the women's health space just because I think it's an underfunded area, and the barrier for getting in is pretty high. It's not an area where people are investing either time or money. So yeah, we're really going all in on women's health. And me personally, I'm just excited for it. I think
Oh, that's
it's
fantastic.
needed.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see, yeah, what it brings, because through work and through personal, I think it's just a passion in both areas.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we're going to put all of your information in the show notes so that people can get access to everything you do, follow you. Again, they might know of someone who can benefit from this amazing grant opportunity. So thank you so much. And I have one last question to ask you before we close things out. And that is, sitting where you sit today, how do you define success for yourself now?
Ooh, good question. I would say for me, I've definitely struggled with what success is. It's a lot of my life. I've thought it had to be society's approval. But
Mhm.
I will say I'm at a point where I think it's my own fulfillment that I can find my success in. So being fulfilled in what I do and who I am is kind of where I would say my measure of success.
I love that. Fantastic. Well, Kimberly, thank you again. Continued success to you. And I just can't wait to watch you and your business partner grow your business into something even more global and fantastic. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.